Greetings, veterans and friends, and welcome to episode 11 of Pennsylvania Veterans Forward. We spend this episode around the 2023 Pennsylvania Veterans of Foreign Wars State Convention. We have a very special guest in this episode. It is the Commander-in-Chief, Timothy Borland of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. He will be here. What a wonderful interview we have. We talked to him about recruiting and his mission and basically what happened during his year. It's a great episode, great interview with the chief. We were happy to have him. We also catch up with outgoing Commander Henry Manella as he completes his program year for the Department of Pennsylvania. Both are great interviews. We had a lot of fun. We talked about a lot. The interview with the chief especially is especially interesting. So, and without further ado, let's get right to it. Greetings, veterans and friends. John Ott here, Pennsylvania Veterans Forward. It is an honor to be here at the 2023 State Convention for Pennsylvania, and I have a very incredibly special guest here on our show. I'd like to welcome the VFW Commander-in-Chief, Timothy Borland, to the show. Chief, it is a wonderful to have you.
Well, thank you, John. First of all, I'm not incredible. I'm a veteran, just like anyone else that would like to join the Veterans of Foreign Wars.
He's being modest. He's incredible. You should hear him speak. Chief, it's an honor, and thank you for coming to our state convention. This is wonderful. It's an honor for not only for us for having you here, but actually to have you on the show as well. So, as custom with our show, we asked the guest a little bit to describe a little bit about themselves, their military experience, and how you rose to the rank and the high office of Commander-in-Chief.
John, I'll be honored to tell you. I'll be honored to tell everyone, actually. Back in '75, when Vietnam ended, I was just starting to enter high school and did not appreciate the way the Vietnam veterans were treated. So I remember telling my dad that one day I'm going to join the service because I want to serve and remember them and welcome them home for their service. So in my junior year, after I finished my junior year, I went down to the Air Force recruiter, tried to join the Air Force, but for some reason, because of a traffic ticket, they wouldn't take me. So I ended up joining the Army. And of course, like all Army recruiters, they tell a little fib to get you in.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was told that I was going to be in condominiums in Florida. I'm not kidding you, on the beach. So I said, oh, yeah, where do I sign up? And come to find out, I go to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, Tank Hill in the middle of the summer.
That's where I started my career.
40-man
awesome.
bed, bay, no air conditioning, and I wanted to definitely talk to my recruiter after that, and you wouldn't believe who my recruiter was, John.
Oh.
My dad. Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes,
really?
my own dad.
You're right.
Recruited me into the Army and told me a couple fibs. Well, he had to get his quota. He had 6 months to make his gold star as a recruiter. So he got his quota, and I finished basic training, went back and finished my senior year in high school. I did 6 years in the reserves at first. Didn't really know what I wanted to do in the Army, so it was a tester. And after 6 years, I did go active duty. I spent 28 years total in the Army.
Wow.
Last serving with the 101st Airborne in Iraq, and that was definitely humbling and an experience that I'll never forget.
That's fantastic. That's so Tank Hill. I started my career at Echo Company 41 at the bottom of Tank Hill. So that's it was.
I think if I can remember correctly, I think it was Delta 22, something like that. We actually had an experimental company. We had a co-ed company. They just studied females, but they were in a separate building and we were in a separate building. I don't know how long that lasted because I think it went away for a little while.
That's in. You had the World War II barracks, right?
Yeah. It was hot.
Yes, it was South Carolina, right? Well, that's fantastic, Chief. How did you get then during the course of your military career? What are your qualifiers for the VFW? Where did you get to serve?
Good question. In '89, I actually went to Korea for a year. Served with the 2nd ID, 520 Infantry as an S2 Intel analyst. Deployed to the DMZ for 3 months. Spent some time up there, and that was my qualifications. I actually joined the Veterans of Foreign Wars at post 9972 in Sierra Vista, Arizona, as a life member in 2000. I was just volunteering there. Really didn't know much about the VFW. It was 21 years already in the Army, and I never heard about the VFW. But they were just off the front gate of Fort Huachuca there in Sierra Vista. And I started volunteering and bartending. And next thing you know, I became a life member. And 3 years later, it took 3 years, I became a post surgeon. And that's where my career started in 2003.
That is fantastic. So since 2003, then on to post commander, district commander, department commander, and then on through up into commander in chief.
Well, John, like you, I became a Centurion Recruiter for the first time, recruiting over 100 members in 2003. It's strange what the military does to you. It taught me leadership. First of all, I was a drill sergeant. So just after drill sergeant duty, I go to Puerto Rico to do a 2-year stint down there. And then, of course, I got promoted to E7 as soon as I finished drill sergeant duty. And when I came back to Fort Huachuca to actually be an instructor at the officer basic course, teaching young lieutenants how to be leaders.
Right, exactly.
It just gave me that leadership quality that I was sitting at the VFW, and one of the post commanders at the time, I remember him very well, remember his name, but for personal purposes, and I'm not going to mention his name, but he was the post commander in 2003, and he dared me to come to a post meeting because he didn't think I could be a leader. So I went to the post meeting, and guess what happens when you go to post meetings?
You get elected.
Immediately, yeah. So I started off as the post surgeon, had no idea what it entailed, but from that day, I started recruiting members in the VFW. I never stopped, and now I'm at 20 consecutive years recruiting over 100 members.
That's incredible. I remember somebody had said that and had said you've been at it so long. Chief, then it begs the question, right? How do you do it? You obviously convicted convicted in this organization and believe in what the organization's mission is doing. But some of the as a Century Recruiter and as the state membership chairman here, travel the state, and they say, John, we live in a small town. We're in such a depressed area. We can't find members. And then I look at their unpaid list, right? I look at the unpaid list and I see that there's so many members that have once joined and then have fallen away. And what would you say to encourage those posts?
There's all kinds of ways to recruit, all kinds of ways. And luckily, as a drill sergeant, and then I became a first sergeant at Fort Huachuca, I had troops. And of course, troops do get in trouble. So the ones that were on extra duty, it was kind of comical, but in a way, a mentorship for those young Americans to teach them, okay, you were in trouble. Here's your chance to make up for it. So I put them in uniform, and I put them out at Buddy Poppy stands, and I had them passing out Buddy Poppies and volunteering to do golf tournaments for the local post there at Sierra Vista. I taught them a little esprit de corps, not only about the Army, but about the veterans of foreign wars. And yes, they all became veterans of foreign wars. So that's where my recruiting started, was actually my own soldiers.
Your own, right,
yes.
from those
So I started to learn how to rebut and how to listen. You have to listen to the person you're talking about that you're trying to get into the VFW. And through those years, John, this is just amazing. Through those years and through all the travels I have been through, because I have gone through all the chairs. I mean, I went through all the post chairs. I went through all the district chairs. It's sort of like a county, Cochise County, in case people don't know how district works.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went through all the department chairs, and I had a goal. When I was bartending at my local VFW, I was just bartending as an E7 active duty. Then I became a first sergeant. I still bartended. It wasn't until 2003 that I actually went to a post meeting, and that's when I actually got involved. I tell active duty soldiers all the time, I know you're busy. I know you're raising kids. I know you have a career.
Yeah.
I know you really don't have the time. I didn't either. But once you do find the time, you're going to start getting involved. And you can't just rush someone into a post position or a district position right off the bat, because you'll burn them out quick. You might even scare them, or you might overwhelm them. So just let them know how important the VFW is and what we do. My favorite question to ask a recruit that wants to join the VFW is $45 worth your benefits? And they go, what do you mean by that,
That's a
sir?
good point.
And I just tell them, well, to become a member of the VFW, and oh, by the way, if you don't know what post you want to join, because we have posts worldwide, we have them over in Europe, we have them in the Pacific area. If you want to become a member, but you're not sure if you want to get involved right away, let's just sign you up as a membership at large, just a member at large. We can sign you up for the state of Arizona, Department of Arizona. We call them departments because we have 50 states, and then we have Europe, and then we have the Pacific area. So there's 52 department commanders. And I just let them know that when we sign you up as a department member at large, you're a member of the VFW, and now you give the current commander-in-chief, which we rotate once a year, into office. When they lobby on Capitol Hill, that is one more vote that we are able to use to support the current military, our Veterans Affairs, veterans who are needing medical assistance, even dependents, spouses of those veterans we help. We push legislation on the Hill every year. We actually lobby twice a year. The VFW, and believe it or not, the American Legion, I will give credit where credit is due,
Sure.
are the two largest VSOs, veteran service organizations, in the entire world. We get a whole hour and a half to testify because of our membership strength. The other VSOs get 5 minutes. That's the big difference. I tell them this, and they said, sure, where do I sign up?
That's that is incredible. Because our legislative priorities are so important. Since I've been involved in the organization, you hear about the legislative priorities, and I'm going to ask you as a recruiter, and you're almost at 600 now this year, right?
593.
And that has never been done before. A commander in chief in VFW has never recruited that many people in a single year.
I've been told that, John, but I'm not really sure what the actual numbers are. But I do believe I might be up there as probably one of the top national commander-in-chiefs ever to recruit. I do know we've had some outstanding past commander-in-chiefs in this organization. I know one of them, I just don't remember his name. He actually became a senator after he got out of office.
Oh, my goodness.
He was just so involved with the VFW.
That's neat. I will tell you that with over 600 people like that, you had to have overcome hundreds, if not probably thousands, of objections from members or potential members that you came across. What would you say? Say, hey, look, I really like what you're doing, but it's really a place to go and have cheap drinks and things like that, and that's all that some potential members who are definitely qualified to be in the organization, that's what they've experienced, or that's what they've been told. How do you handle those objections, Chief?
I think that's a simple thing. I've had many of that. Matter of fact, up in Fort Huachuca, when I was active duty, so I joined in 2000. I got out in 2007. 28 years in the Army, almost 28 years in the Army. I was 21 days shy, give or take a few days. I used to always set up a information booth at the PX on Fort Huachuca. I got to know the management there so well that I was part of their furniture.
Oh, yeah.
I can set up the table anytime I want. Yeah. And the rule was, or the agreement was, is I can't sell anything. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I just set up an information table. I had packets out there of the things that the VFW does, fact sheets. I had business cards for service officers, claims when they come home. And yes, I had many actually, all from Vietnam veteran to current era, say, oh, I heard it's just a bar. It's smoky. Why would I want to join? And I just tell the young man or woman, because we do recruit both genders. We do not discriminate. We're an all-inclusive organization. I just let them know that's not what it's about. And if I was to sign you up as a member of Arizona, member at large, as I stated earlier, you pick and choose the posts you like. When you move, active duty especially, because I let those active duty members know they're veterans too. A lot of active duty members don't know they're veterans because they're still serving. But by God, if they've been in Vietnam, they've been in Korea, if they've been to Iraq, Afghanistan, Grenada, Africa, anywhere, if they've got a expeditionary medal, they are qualified to join the VFW. I have signed up so many leaders, so many senior leadership, all the way down to a private E1. If they've actually deployed, most of them go to Korea right out of basic training.
Yeah,
or
yeah, for
right
sure.
after
Yeah.
school. And how I tell, a lot of people go, "How in the world you get so many?" I go, "It's easy, especially on an Army installation." I see that combat patch on their uniform. So immediately I go, "Hey, thank you for your service. I see you deployed. Where'd you go?" And I relate to them. Because I've been there too.
Absolutely.
I've been to Korea. I've been to Iraq. After 28 years, I know quite a few of the deployments. And after 20 years of recruiting, because I can see you got 2 Century Awards already, because that's what that number means on his hat. That means that he's got 2 years of recruiting over 100 members. I just got my number 20 at the house,
That's incredible.
Which is great, and I'm not going to stop.
Yeah.
But after all those times recruiting and just getting the experience, you know the key words, you know the key phrases, you know how to listen, you know how to give feedback, and I just let them know straight up. It's not about the smoky bars. It's not about comrades drinking to obliteration where they can't drive anymore.
Yeah.
It's about the service we do. We do a lot of service. Buddy Poppies, we do veteran services, we do funerals, we do welcome homes, we do adopt a unit, so many programs. And the thing that really gets those young heroes that want to join the Veterans of Foreign Wars is when I tell them we have scholarships for the kids. That is huge.
Yeah, that could impact their families, things
Yes.
that, so, you went to Korea and Iraq and all these others. So you had the same really crappy travel agent I did, right, in the military.
My last 20 years, John, was Intel. I was an Intel analyst, 96 Bravo, now it's a 35 Fox. A matter of fact, I got back after the magazine comes out, and I was installed as the Commander-in-Chief of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. I get a phone call while I was sitting in D.C. I just got back from Germany on a trip with Ryan Gallucci and Bob Wallace out of the Executive Director's Office in D.C., and it's one of my privates from 13 years or 14 years ago that I was a drill sergeant to.
Oh, my goodness.
They remember me as a drill sergeant.
Yeah.
And they go, "Oh, my God, is this Drill Sergeant Borland?" I go, "Yes, it is." After talking to this young man, he became a life member over the phone.
That's fantastic. When you believe in the organization and what it does, and you can articulate that, and you're passionate about that, I think it just comes out. It manifests itself in just pure passion, which obviously you have, Chief. As you were coming up through the ranks, especially as you came from last year into this year into the Commander-in-Chief, what had you seen was your vision? What were your goals? I know membership, clearly a goal. What was your message to your leaders in your year that's still going on until June 30th?
That's a good question. I mean, if you would look at all the VFW magazines that's come out this past year, the first edition that came out was myself standing in front of a placard that said "Future Vision." It's right there in front of our Kansas City office, right there in Kansas City, Missouri. Future Vision. I truly believe that our kids are our future. I truly believe that we as parents and we as veterans need to teach our youth about patriotism. It's so important. And if we do that, how great would our future be?
Indeed, and that's with the world in its turmoil now, and the world in the place that it is, that future seems to be a little bit more. It seems to be more diminished as you talk. Depending on people's view, a lot of people have been in the military. You find the kids that have been in the military, or the kids of parents that have been in the military, but that it seems to have an erosion right now of the Americanism that once was really strong and really powerful in the organization. Of course, the VFW, not just about veterans and veterans service, but to that point, we do a tremendous amount of community service. And I know the community service was a big part of your message, because being involved in the community means that you're not only reaching the community, but you're also reaching veterans who are in the community that may be qualified or rather qualified to be part of the organization.
So I can tell you're a recruiter because you're hitting it right on you're hitting the nail right on the head. I mean, you are. Uh, Membership was my number one priority. Membership is so important because without membership, we cannot lobby on the Hill for our rights. However, being visual is important too. Those Buddy Poppy stands and those recruiting booths that you put out there, those fairs that you attend, all those events that we as veterans attend and put our hat on, Memorial Day services, Veteran Day services, funerals, whatever ability or chance you get, wear your hat and wear it proudly, because they're going to see you out there and they're going to go, I've been wanting to join the VFW. I've been wanting to talk to this
Yeah,
guy.
for sure.
Because I've been approached many times recruiting just outside the PX years ago before COVID hits, of course, going, I've seen you out there. I've been wanting to come up here. I'm glad I did, and they joined.
That's fantastic. And I know you, one of the highlights of your year, I'm sure, was getting out across overseas, visiting with the troops, being together with those heroes, those men and women who are serving, and they're serving in those combat, right, in those theater of operations. Talk a little bit about that. That must have been an incredible experience, not only to be among them, but just experiencing and experiencing what they're experiencing, but more importantly, saying, you know what, and that DPA, the dig is also a great story as well.
Yeah, well, first of all, John, you got to be humble whenever you do hold a position. You got to remember that it's not about you. It's about who you work for, and
Yeah.
it's the veterans that we work for. Our auxiliaries, great. I was telling a story earlier here in Pennsylvania that since I was commander in chief this year, July 21st of 2022 is when I was installed in Kansas City, Missouri. I have actually been to 12 countries this year. And that's phenomenal because, and the reason why is because COVID stopped travel. When I was a junior vice, I went nowhere. When I was a senior vice commander in chief, I barely got out of the States, and that was with our current senior vice commander in chief, Dwayne Sarmiento. We actually went to Hawaii to visit DPAA, the Defense POW Accountant Agency, where it's the largest bone skeleton in the world. They got Korea, they got World War II, they got Iraq, Afghanistan, they got remains from Vietnam. It's just so humbling. It's got a whole entire floor of nothing but glass windows with these skeleton figures and bodies on hospital beds. And if they can get most of it intact, they got their skull all the way down to their feet and pieces here and there, what they can find
Yeah, sure.
from the digs.
Wow.
And every last one of them are facing the flag as if they're saluting the flag. It's humbling. So yes, I've been to many places. I'll give you two examples. I went to Poland with Ryan Galucci, our brand new executive director of the DC office. And while there, and Dwayne Sarmiento, our senior vice, who's going to be our commander in chief next month. And I wish him the best. I know he's going to do well. Very energetic. He believes in membership. He also believes in service, veteran service. But while they're in Poland, we talked to the current leadership there, and we told them, we're not here to get anything from you. We want to know what we can do for you.
Yeah,
We
support.
want to know what we can do for you. We advocate. We're your strength. We're your voice on Capitol Hill when we go talk to Congress and Senate and testify and all that good stuff. And one of the things I learned from Poland was two things. The National Guard soldiers had no idea why they were there. They've been there since February 24th of 2022, unfortunately, because of Ukraine. We just went over there to seek information and to try to get them help. And we're now getting them PCS in there so they can bring their spouse, because right now it's more of a, I don't know if this is the proper term, but it's more of a show of force. They cover 8 countries on the eastern flanks of NATO to show Russia that if you even think about coming across this line, you've just initiated Article 5, which is NATO. And you don't want to do that. It's going to, you attack one, you attack 30.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Attack on one.
So also
Attack
what
on
we
all.
learned from the leadership is they're not getting nothing. So I just pushed one of 6 priorities just 2 months ago on the Hill. And that priority is the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal for all those troops that are over in Eastern Europe right now in case of Russian aggression. So that was a phenomenal trip.
Is that so? The Ad Expeditionary Medal also for the National Guard troops, right? The Air National Guard troops
Right.
and some of the Army National Guard troops that may be listening. That maybe we have quite a few listeners that are Air National Guard and Army National Guard. That Expeditionary Medal, if they have deployed, and subsequent issuance of that Expeditionary Medal just happens to come their way, that are the qualifiers.
So it's a win-win. Not only are we showing them that we care about them, and we're trying to get them recognition for their service, because they're just young. I mean, we're all kids when we joined, and they're away from their families, and it's just not right not to give them what they deserve. So by giving them the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medals, not only making them feel good, but they're going to always remember the VFW because we're the ones that got it initiated for them, and they become eligible to join the VFW. So it's a win-win.
Indeed, indeed.
Indeed.
And Chief, we know you're a busy man. I have one final question for you. If you're speaking to that young troop, just back from deployed, maybe then, and you probably know this from visiting the troops. You probably have run into troops that have been deployed 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 times. I've known that.
Absolutely.
I know people as well. If you're talking to a young troop, or any veteran, but specifically a young troop, what is your message to them that says, and they're on the fence, you know what, I'm really not sure?
Oh, I just got goosebumps on that question because I have a simple answer. When I travel in airports, I travel a lot. Trust me, a lot. Like I said, 12 different countries. Vietnam. I got 40 life members in Vietnam. I never thought I would even recruit one person over there. And that's because, as I said earlier, DPAA, the Defense POW Accounting Agency,
Sure.
they have 3 different detachments in Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam. They're active duty, and they're volunteers from other units active duty to do recovery sites, which Dwayne and I definitely had an experience to see. It was very humbling. Probably 2 heroes in Laos that we're bringing home, and one in Vietnam, and 4 others from a plane crash off the coast of Vietnam that we're possibly going to bring home this month or next. It's wonderful, but what I tell them is the PACT Act. I am so stoked to be the Commander in Chief, August 10th, to be on stage with President Biden when the largest veteran bill ever in 3 decades was signed into law. That was the biggest honor of my life, other than burying 2 Medal of Honor recipients this year.
Wow.
That was great. I mean, I'm sure you all heard of Hershey Woody Williams.
We did,
who's,
yeah.
Who's responsible for all the Gold Star family memorials throughout the nation. I actually buried him 20 years after he buried his wife. He waited for her before they put the headstone down. But to get back to the PACT Act and the honor of the Medal of Honor recipients, by the way, Lieutenant Colonel Addison Baker, 79 years ago, he went down in World War II, and we disinterred his remains, and off DNA samples from roughly 3 generations ago, we put him in resting spot in Arlington. But when I tell those kids about the PACT Act and about getting your claim in, or at least registering for the burn pit, and what we did on the Hill, they are so excited and pleased. And the first thing they say is they never heard of the PACT Act.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
like
what
it's
is
like
that?
the it's like the
Right.
VFW.
Yeah.
You don't know what
Yeah.
that stands for,
Right.
unless you say Veterans of Foreign Wars. So I tell them toxic exposure burn pit, and they go, yeah, I remember. Yes, I know all about it. Matter of fact, I registered for the burn pit. Or how do you do it? I tell them to go to pactactinfo.org, PACTACT info.org. Go to that site, and that will tell you exactly where those burn pits were. It will tell you exactly what presumptive diseases are out there for the burn pits and the toxic exposures. It goes back to Vietnam, the Gulf War, post 9/11, all the way through current operations, especially Africa, because they are doing burn pits galore over there. And when I tell them that, oh God, they're just so ready to join. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll offer a young airman or a soldier a membership on the house for a year. It comes out of my own pocket. I'm honored to do it. And I give them my card. This is a great technique. I give them my card. I show them down in the left-hand corner, VFW.org. I explain to them when they get their card in the mail, go to this site and please at least log in with your own password and your membership card number so you can control your destiny from there. You're going to have your address. You're going to have your phone number. It's going to say your membership. And I talk them into going life installment. That's a real good one.
Well, that's the only one to have, Chief. Right?
I actually tell them it's like an Army allotment. I mean, it's that simple.
That's actually pretty good.
And they do it. And I ask them one last favor. In a year from now, please consider renewing this or go in life if you haven't already, because the Veterans of Foreign needs you. It will help you. It will help your friend. It will help future veterans.
That's fantastic. Chief, I want to thank you so very much for the honor, for the interview, coming on the show. I know you're busy. You're a busy man running the organization. Thank you for coming to our convention, and thank you for all you do. And that's an incredible, almost 600 members and 20 years of being a Centurion Recruiter. I really appreciate what you do.
So, John, it's not about me, and I'm glad to be here at the Department of Pennsylvania. I just can't tell you how many departments I've already visited this year alone, but every department is following protocol. Every department's motivated. And oh, by the way, we just hit 43 departments at 100% plus. So this is a phenomenal year.
Right.
And every single department I've gone to, not only is the comrades, which is the Veterans of Foreign Wars side, are 100%, the national organization at 100%, but so is our auxiliaries. Departments and national auxiliary is 100%. So we got a foursome. I mean, we got four entities in the Veterans of Foreign Wars that are just promoting membership and veteran services. And I'm just so proud to be the Commander-in-Chief, and I am pleased and very happy to be here, Department of Pennsylvania, to be your national rep.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for all you do for veterans. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Commander-in-Chief Timothy Borland, Veterans of Foreign Wars Commander-in-Chief. It's been an honor to have him. Our next guest here, another honored guest on Pennsylvania Veterans Forward, the current and outgoing commander, which is, you can see the smile on his face. He's getting ready to depart. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to have Commander Henry Manella, Department Commander, State Commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Department of Pennsylvania. Commander, it's great to see you.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, I see that. I've interviewed a few state commanders, and you see that smile on their face, and they're getting ready to complete their year, and you've got a whole bunch of things to be very proud of. That you and your staff and your team and all the veterans in the post have done. The post and the districts and the people have done just an incredible time. So how's your convention go? How are you feeling?
A little bittersweet. I know it's coming to an end, but I started this journey, and I wanted to put my best foot forward, went all in, and I think the whole department, whole team, not just me, the whole team did an awesome job this year.
Incredible work. I mean, incredible work. You assembled a fantastic team. I know membership, we just had the chief on in the previous interview. You yourself focused on membership. Of course, you were the membership chairman for all those years in the department. Really appreciate the effort you focused in on there, but you really focused in on the veteran and understanding what the VFW does, who we are, what we stand for, especially all of the legislative priorities we had. I really appreciate that. I know, we'll talk a little bit about your trip overseas as well, going and visiting the troops. But, you had an incredible year, and you had the three principles, and I already forgot them. So what were your three principles?
Honor, service, mentorship.
Honor, service, and mentorship. And, I can see that throughout the year, those principles were lived out, right, throughout those years. What do you think stood out in your mind the most when you think about those three values?
What stood out to me the most is the reason why I picked those three topics was because VFW, always our saying in the VFW, honor the led by serving the living. So I took those two, honor and service. I mean, we got to honor our past comrades that have passed away,
Yeah.
but right now, our present, we got to service the veterans that we have here still with us. Currently, our veterans, currently our active duty soldiers, currently our Guard and Reserve. Because a lot of the Guard and Reserve now, it's not the old days where the Guard
Yeah.
would go just for 2 weekend.
They have a large part of the mission.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do now.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. And you yourself being, right, a guardsman for many years, right,
Yes,
as well.
Yep. Two tours to Iraq.
2 tours to Iraq. So again, when I had the chief on, I say that you had the same just crappy travel agent that we all did,
Yes,
right?
I got it twice. Yep.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, you got 2 tours. Exactly. Well, what do you think, Commander, what do you think was your proudest moment of the year, right? Was it a specific event that you went to that and you just said, this is what the VFW is. This is why I am part of this organization.
What was my proudest moment is when I went over to overseas to speak to the soldiers that were in Kuwait and just explain the VFW. Out of 100 people, just say 90 of them didn't even know what the VFW was. They just, the ones and the other 10, oh yeah, we're just a cheap place to get a drink. Well, once I explained to them what the VFW does, just not for them, for their children, for their wives joining the auxiliary. And I just kept talking like I was a car salesman to them. And it was just, they were flowing with the answers. And they're like, and that's why when I came back, I signed a lot of the members up over there because they did qualify.
Yeah, and you saw one of our own, one of Pennsylvania's own, right, the VFW's own, Frank McGovern,
Yep.
overseas as well, and that was I know that was a nice reunion, especially I'm sure he appreciated, right, seeing a good friendly face
Yeah.
coming over.
I mean, Frank was very instrumental for me going over there. The hardest part I had is I would call him Frank, but all his warrant officers that would call him Colonel Frank. So I had to go back to my military barrack colonel.
Yeah.
I just couldn't call him Frank because I just didn't want to disrespect. He goes, "You're allowed to call me Frank. Anybody else, you're not."
He's a very kind man, and it's very humble. That's he's a great guy. Colonel Frank McGovern, PA National Guard. Great job, sir. If you're watching, I know you're a fan, and I know you watch, and we're looking forward to you coming home. So as you progress through the year and you saw all of these great things, you went to Washington D.C. I know you were on the Hill. At that, I know you had been there before, but you had been there before not as a state commander. Talk about that experience. And I know when I go there, I feel immense pride when I see the commander in chief, whoever that is, right, speaking before Congress, advocating for us as veterans. Talk about a little bit of that experience. What did you feel when you went through that experience as a department commander?
What it was is when I talked to our senators and to our House of Representatives, I didn't get to actually talk to them personally. I talked to their staff, and I basically broke it down to them. Hey, look, here's what Pennsylvania veterans need, and this is what we're fighting for. And I also explained to them, hey, look, if you're not aware of this, Pennsylvania has one of the most deployed Guard units in the whole country. So a lot of Pennsylvanians are going to be going to either Poland, back over to Saudi Arabia. A lot of your voters. So we're going to need this help. We're going to need to fight for Guard benefits and everything like that. So they were really almost like a sponge taking all this information. They didn't realize that. So just by me giving them that little facts, that helped hopefully get our message across to our senators and our House of Representatives.
That's fantastic, and it really is. And it really, you just kind of get that vibe when you get there. You feel that energy, and for me, when that happens, it just charges me because I know that I'm advocating for veterans, and we all are. Well, you've had some really personal, really fantastic personal milestones that you've reached. First of all, what a wonderful, your first time as Centurion Recruiter. I know that you came close. You'd said one time, prior in a prior year. Fantastic. I think you're 106 or 107 members. The chief talked about the importance of Centurion Recruiters and what an honor that is. I know it's an honor for me as well. You did a lot of work, right? You lived the role, right? You went out there, you recruited people. You could see the conviction that you had, right, about the organization. When you got that Centurion Recruiter status, what went through your mind?
I was kind of proud, and actually, on a side note, Pennsylvania actually had 4 Centurion Recruiters this year.
That's right.
Yourself being one, Greg Stump. Well, actually, let me back up a second. Yourself and Greg, you were 2-time Centurion Recruiters.
That's
back
right.
Back to back. And also, I guess myself and Craig Fisher were the new kids on the block.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, and those yourself and Greg and Craig were part of the membership team, and so that was very instrumental to getting this department to 100%, along with all the posts and districts, knowing how important our membership is to give us a voice down D.C. The more voices we have in D.C., the more the politicians are going to want to listen to us.
100%. You're right. It was a completely team. It was a team effort. It was you put together a fantastic team. You had a vision. Very early on, we had a plan. We developed a plan, and you were there to support it and in every way. Well, you're going to be an All-American Department Commander, only the second time in quite a few years.
Yeah, the last one that I can remember was Ace Hands. Back in 2017-18.
17-18. Well, that's fantastic. You've added now members to the organization. The organization hadn't been 100%, and so now I think you've started the trend. Just like Chief Borland said, he had a vision with the next 3 commanders that are coming in to increase the organization by.
As going out as a past state commander, I feel my job now is to make sure we keep that trend going.
Yeah.
To keep the 100%, to keep the members involved, to keep giving us a stronger voice down D.C. So we got to just keep moving forward. It's going to be tougher, but the good thing is we have a lot of Pennsylvania Guard troops going overseas and coming back that are now VFW eligible. So that hopefully will help our efforts. And just explaining what the VFW does. And once we do that, it's like hook, line, and sinker.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct, and wonderful to hear that. I wanted to ask you, who are you most thankful for this year? I know you have a lot of people to thank, but if you had to pick one person, who would you be?
My family.
Your family. Well, great answer. I know that your wife is intimately involved with this organization and the VFW Auxiliary. I had personally seen how much your family has put into the organization to support you. That is wonderful. Can't do it without them.
No, they gave me an opportunity to pursue this goal of being department commander, and without them, I never would have got it.
Indeed. Well, veterans and friends, here at the 2023 Veterans of Foreign Wars State Convention in the state of Pennsylvania, an honor to have outgoing Commander Henry Manella here, who's had an absolutely banner year in the state of Pennsylvania, being an All-American Commander and a Centurion himself. Couldn't have done it without his family and the folks that are here, the great folks who've been in here in Pennsylvania. So, Commander, I wish you all the best of luck.
Time gone quick, didn't it?
It did.
This time last year was like...
Yeah, I remember the interview. I remember us having the interview last year. But good luck to you.
But thank you for the work you did this year, too, for me. I appreciate that.
It is my honor, sir, and thank you for the appointment.
And, John, good luck on being District 8 Commander next year.
Yes. I'll still be doing the labor of love on the podcast, but looking forward to being in the leadership in the district. So,
your hair might be a little whiter.
Yeah. We got to get you in the Eagles jersey again, Commander.
Negative. Negative. You can delete that part.
All right. Thank you again for all you do.
Thank you.